Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about not necessarily news, but just information. It's not in the headlines or anything like that, but I wanted to discuss why so many people are quitting. And I mean, you don't see that many sites picking up on this because Big Four accounting firms aren't going to be issuing press releases about it, but there's a lot of people quitting the Big Four accounting firms and going to other places. And we can see some evidence in this by how many people that they hire. I guess that's where we do see the press releases by when they announce how many people they're going to hire over the next so many years. And while they release those press releases, they can also talk about their diversity initiatives and how they plan to meet X, Y, and Z diversity goal. But I think there's many reasons why a lot of Big Four accountants are leaving. I think it's a good market to look for work right now, just because businesses are bouncing back from COVID-19, and they're kind of they're planning on that. Earnings seasons is good in the stock market. So I think a lot of companies are just being optimistic, even in the face of bad COVID news. People are just, people are right now putting their faith into vaccines and just businesses bouncing back overall, along with inflation. I think inflation has something to do with it across the board because prices for everything are going up. So along with that is compensation. We saw that last week with the partnership, where the partners are getting humongous bonuses in the UK. So it's not just in the US where you're seeing inflation, it's basically everywhere. And then people are getting better offers at other jobs. And especially for people that went through the COVID-19 downturn in the Big Four accounting firms, where their salaries were reduced or kept the same. Even the raise at the Big Four accounting firms this year was not enough, or people were looking for jobs before the promotion year, or the end of the fiscal year. So they were, people had found a job before then. They didn't wait to hear what their raise was. And a lot of this, the Big Four accounting firms are used to, but I don't think that's kind of what I said last year during COVID-19, that the Big Four accounting firms don't do a good job of anticipating this stuff. And so they don't save money or steer the ship fast enough to anticipate this. And then so what happens on the back end? The back end is they lose a lot of people. And I think this also contributes to audit quality, which we read about constantly, is because the Big Four accounting firms have to constantly swap employees in and out. People have to learn on the fly. They have to get things done very quickly. And so they're training people on the fly, and those people might not know the best practices from last year because a lot of people left. And so this is another reason why you might see audit quality diminish, and people in the Big Four accounting firms hitting the same branches on the way down year after year. After every time they fall out of the tree, they hit the same branches because they're having to train new people. But alternatively, it's a good time to get a job at the Big Four accounting firms. Well, I mean, there's going to be more openings. I don't see M&A going down around the world either. So I think this is a great time to get a job. I think it's a great time to get a good raise. I think it's a great time to negotiate a good starting salary. Try to negotiate from a position of strength, especially if you're in a market that's really hot. And so that's just something I wanted to cover, because I have heard this over the past few months, that people are quitting. And it also makes sense because there's always the work-life balance issue with the Big Four accounting firms. You have to get chargeable hours for your client. You don't have to do that in most industry jobs. Even if you have to do somewhere similar at a place that makes a lot more money and has higher upside, then people are going to do that. But people can also earn more money through a raise by going to industry, and then also through a bonus, because the bonuses are, depending on where you go, are typically better in industry. So I think getting a raise, getting work-life balance, I think people are going to take that, and that's what they're doing right now, especially in the economy right now. I think it's a good time to be doing this because the economy is doing pretty well. We'll have to see how it goes for the rest of the year with COVID and any variants. But if you shouldn't be necessarily worried about that if you can get a good stable job right now, a good raise, and then if you have to, you can move around after that. Like then your next step in your career doesn't always have to be your final step. You can figure it out as you go. But if you're not enjoying your time at the big four accounting firms in your group or your pay, then and you can get a good raise somewhere else, and that now might be the time to do that. But I think that's why we're seeing the moves to other places. And I've even been hearing about people that are moving outside of accounting in general. So I think a lot of people are quitting. The big four accounting firms are hiring a lot more people too. So, but I mean, we'll see where this story goes. We'll see the hiring rates. We'll see how the economy does and the performance of the big four accounting firms as they release their revenue reports later this year. So that's the update today. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast for future updates and check out the show notes for ways that you can support us. Thanks for listening.